Jake, after 17 years, we're eliminating your position, my boss said flatly. Clean out your desk by end of day. My name's Jake Wilson, 54 years old, and until that Monday morning, senior systems analyst at Meridian Technologies in Columbus, Ohio. For almost 2 decades, I'd been the backbone of the IT department, from the dial-up days to cloud migration. 3 CEOs had come and gone while I stayed put, training every new hire, recovering every lost file, working through weekends and holidays without asking for a promotion or pat on the back. So when Daniel called me into his office with Vanessa from HR already seated, I knew before he opened his mouth. The air had changed weeks ago. I understand completely, I said, nodding once. I walked out without another word. No anger, no pleading. Just quiet acknowledgement. Back at my desk, I watched younger employees glance my way, then quickly looked down at their screens. News travels fast. Most of them were coders I'd trained myself. Good kids, but they had no idea what was actually built into our systems or how the older architecture worked. None of them could navigate the custom software I'd written or the admin credentials buried 3 layers deep in every system. I began packing my personal items methodically. Family photo. Coffee mug my son made in high school. The small cactus that somehow survived 17 years under fluorescent lighting. Bethany from marketing stopped by, her face tight with concern. Jake, I just heard. This is ridiculous. You practically built this place. I shrugged. Companies change direction. But without any warning? After everything you've done? Her voice was rising, drawing attention. It's fine, I said quietly. Really? It wasn't fine, but I wasn't going to make a scene. As I was leaving, Daniel stepped out of his office to watch me go. No goodbye, no handshake. Just surveillance to make sure I actually left. What none of them had bothered to pay attention to over the years was that I had become the most critical person in the entire building. Not because I was exceptional, but because I was thorough. I documented everything. Set up secure audit protocols years ago to track unauthorized access, by request of the legal team during a past scandal. I also had copies. In my car, I sat for a moment, looking back at the 12-story building where I'd spent most of my adult life. The security badge I'd just surrendered had been renewed 16 times. I started the engine and drove home. They had no idea Wednesday would be fun. I'd been with Meridian since it was just 2 floors in a business park. Started when my daughter Olivia was in kindergarten. Now she was finishing grad school. The company grew, and I grew with it. Turned down offers from competitors because loyalty mattered to me. My wife Andrea used to joke that the servers were my second family. She wasn't entirely wrong. I knew every system, every workaround, every backdoor solution to problems the executives didn't even know existed. The infrastructure I'd built had survived 3 acquisitions and countless innovations that management embraced, then abandoned months later. Daniel became my boss 5 years ago, young MBA type who called our department IT resources instead of people. He had ideas about streamlining, efficiency, digital transformation, buzzwords that usually meant doing more with less. At first, I tried to help him understand our systems, the complexity buried under years of growth and adaptation. We need to future-proof, he'd say in meetings, looking right past me. 6 months ago, he brought in a consultant named Jason Phillips. Expensive suit, firm handshake, Stanford degree displayed prominently on his LinkedIn profile. They'd huddle in conference rooms, speaking quietly whenever I walked by. 3 months ago, I noticed my access permissions being quietly modified. Nothing obvious, just small changes to administrative controls. I could have protested, but instead I watched. Documented. You seem distracted lately, Andrea said one night as we sat on the porch. Is everything okay at work? I nodded, sipping my beer. Just changes. Nothing I haven't seen before. But these changes felt different. I was being sidelined in meetings. Emails about system upgrades stopped including me. Younger team members were assigned to projects I would normally handle. Then I found it, a company-wide memo about modernization initiatives that had never been shared with me. It outlined a complete restructuring of the IT department under new leadership, Jason Phillips. My position wasn't even on the organizational chart. That same day, I discovered something else. While running a routine security scan, one of those background tasks no one else bothered with anymore, I noticed unusual patterns in our financial software. Regular transfers to a vendor I didn't recognize. Apex Solutions Group. A quick search showed it was registered just last year with a business address that led to a UPS store. The authorized payments had started small but were growing each month. I didn't say anything, just noted it, copied the records, and continued watching. Sometimes the quiet man in the corner sees everything precisely because everyone thinks he sees nothing. The morning after I was let go, I sat in my home office staring at my personal laptop. No alarm had woken me. No commute waited. Just silence and the weight of what had happened. Andrea brought me coffee, placing it beside me without a word. After 19 years of marriage, she knew when I needed space. "I'm going to the store," she said eventually. "Need anything?" I shook my head. After she left, I unlocked the bottom drawer of my desk and pulled out a flash drive, one of several I kept secure. Company policy strictly prohibited removing data, but years ago, when the legal team needed an audit system for tracking potential insider threats, I'd been clear about needing off-site backups. They'd signed off on it, then promptly forgotten. I plugged it in and began reviewing the files. Internal emails, meeting minutes I shouldn't have had access to, financial records that normal employees would never see. There it was, a full history of payments to Apex Solutions Group, nearly $1.8 million over 18 months. The approval chain led directly to our CFO, Brian Wilcox. I dug deeper, cross-referencing dates and figures until the pattern emerged. The payments aligned perfectly with a series of software license renewals for systems we used company-wide. But the amounts were inflated, sometimes by 15%, sometimes by 20%. Small enough not to raise immediate flags, large enough to add up. I pulled up the business registration for Apex Solutions Group. The listed owner was Thomas Wilcox. A quick social media search confirmed what I suspected: Brian's brother-in-law. They were siphoning company funds through fake markup on legitimate expenses. I leaned back in my chair, feeling something shift inside me. Not anger exactly, something colder, more focused. For 17 years, I'd solved problems, fixed systems, protected data. I'd been the reliable one, the steady presence who never caused waves, and they'd discarded me like outdated hardware. My phone buzzed with a text from Steven, a junior analyst I'd mentored over the past 2 years. "Sorry about yesterday. Total BS what they did. Phillips is already moving into your old office." I set the phone down without responding. The pieces all fit now. Daniel and the CFO needed me gone before anyone could connect the dots on their scheme. They probably thought the evidence would disappear with me, that I was just some aging tech guy who didn't understand modern finance. I opened my email and began drafting a message to the board of directors, then stopped, finger hovering over the send button. Too direct, too easy to dismiss as the bitter accusations of a fired employee. I needed leverage, precision, a way to expose the fraud that couldn't be ignored or covered up. I deleted the draft and started making plans. Tomorrow was Wednesday, board meeting day. Quarterly financials would be presented. Bonuses would be approved. Perfect timing. I closed the laptop and walked to the living room window, looking out at the neighborhood where we'd raised our kids and built our life. For the first time since yesterday, I smiled. Wednesday morning, I sat in my car across the street from Meridian's headquarters, watching employees stream through the revolving doors. In the passenger seat was my laptop, logged into an email account I'd created years ago for security testing, one that appeared to come from an internal company domain but wasn't tracked in the main directory. At exactly 9:15 a.m., I sent my first move, an email to Daniel with the subject line, "Financial irregularities, urgent review needed," and a basic summary of what I'd found regarding the Apex payments. I included just enough detail to be credible but kept the brother-in-law connection out of it. If Daniel was involved, he'd panic. If he wasn't, he'd investigate. Either way, I'd learn something. By 9:45, my phone rang. Daniel's number. I let it go to voicemail. His message was terse. "Jake, we need to discuss your email immediately. Call me back." I didn't. Instead, I drove to a coffee shop, set up my laptop, and waited. At 10:30, another email appeared, this one from Vanessa in HR. "Mr. Wilson, we've received concerning communication from you that potentially violates your separation agreement. Please cease all contact with Meridian employees and remember your confidentiality obligations. Any further communications may result in legal action." So that's how they were playing it. Threaten, dismiss, isolate. I hadn't signed any separation agreement. At noon, I drove to my bank and accessed my safe deposit box. Inside was another backup, older, but with critical information I hadn't included on my regular drives. Among the files were original security protocols I'd designed, including documentation of who had access to what systems and when changes were made. According to these records, Brian Wilcox had personally requested expanded access to the financial approval systems 18 months ago, right when the Apex payments began. Back home, I found 3 more missed calls, Daniel, Vanessa, and now Jason Phillips. I hadn't expected him to get involved so quickly. Interesting. I checked my personal email to find a message from Steven, marked urgent. Jake, they're saying you sent some crazy email about financial fraud. Phillips called an emergency meeting. Everyone's talking. They're pulling your access to everything, even historical stuff we need to do our jobs. What's going on? Poor kid, caught in the crossfire. I sent a brief reply. Don't get involved, Steven. Just watch. At 3 p.m., my home phone rang, a number I hadn't used for business in years. I picked up but said nothing. Jake? It's Brian Wilcox. His voice was steady, controlled. We should talk about your concerns. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Is that what you call it? I asked. Look, transition periods are always difficult. If you have questions about company finances, there are proper channels. Like the board? I interrupted. Silence then. The board doesn't need to be bothered with operational details. Why don't we meet tomorrow, just you and me? We can clear this up. Sorry, I'm busy tomorrow, I said. Besides, I think the board might actually be very interested in Apex Solutions Group, and your brother-in-law. The sharp intake of breath told me everything. You're making a serious mistake, he said finally. We can make this right. Generous severance, references, whatever you need. Goodbye, Brian, I said and hung up. Within 10 minutes, Vanessa emailed again. Suddenly, my severance package had doubled with an attached agreement requiring my complete confidentiality regarding all company matters. They were scrambling now, but they still thought they were dealing with a simple extortion attempt. They had no idea what was coming. Thursday morning brought clarity and confirmation. I'd spent the night combing through years of data, connecting dots I'd previously overlooked. The Apex scheme wasn't Brian's first creative accounting project. 3 years ago, shortly after he became CFO, another pattern emerged. Consulting fees to a firm called Lakeside Business Solutions. Different name, same game. Inflated invoices for services partially or never rendered. I traced the registration for Lakeside. This one led to Patricia Wilcox, Brian's wife. The woman was apparently CEO of a company that had no website, no employees, and a virtual office address. But the bigger revelation came when I dug into email archives. Daniel hadn't just been aware of these arrangements, he'd helped facilitate them. In exchange, his department received budget increases while others faced cuts. He'd been brought in specifically because the previous director had started asking questions about IT expenditures. Even Jason Phillips was connected. His consulting firm had been hired through an unusual process that bypassed normal procurement channels. His real role wasn't modernizing IT, it was eliminating the one person who might notice the financial patterns. Me. The scheme was elegant in its simplicity. Create legitimate-seeming vendors, approve inflated payments, and split the difference. Since actual services were being provided, just at marked-up rates, auditors scanning for completely fraudulent charges would miss it. Over 3 years, they'd diverted nearly $4.3 million. I gathered everything into a comprehensive report, spreadsheets showing the pattern of increases, business registrations linking the companies to Brian's family, email exchanges showing Daniel's knowledge and participation. Then I did something they wouldn't expect. I contacted Robert Chen, a board member I'd worked with years ago during a security implementation. He was semi-retired now, but still attended quarterly meetings. Jake Wilson, he said, answering on the second ring. Long time. Heard you left Meridian. Not by choice, I replied. Robert, I need 15 minutes of your time. It's important. Silence then. This about why Brian and Daniel have been huddled together looking stressed. Board meeting was tense yesterday. Probably, he chuckled. Always figured you knew where the bodies were buried. Where can we meet? An hour later, we sat in a park 3 miles from headquarters. I handed him a sealed envelope containing a printed summary and a flash drive. That's everything, I said. Dates, amounts, connections. I'm not looking for my job back. I'm not looking for money. I just want the right people to know. Robert studied me. Why come to me? Because you actually read audit reports. I've watched you in meetings. You ask questions. He nodded slowly. There's an emergency board session tomorrow. Finance committee review. Convenient timing. Jake, he said, pocketing the envelope. If this checks out, there will be serious consequences. I'm counting on it. As I walked back to my car, my phone buzzed with a text from Andrea. Someone named Jason Phillips came by the house looking for you. Said it was urgent. I told him you were out. They were getting desperate. Good. That afternoon, I received job offers from two competing firms, both for positions well above my previous role, both offering substantial signing bonuses. Word had gotten around about my sudden availability. I ignored them for now. This wasn't about finding another job. It was about finishing what they had started. That night, using credentials that should have been revoked but weren't, sloppy IT transition, Jason, I accessed the company's email server one last time and scheduled a message to be delivered to every board member at 8 a.m. tomorrow. Before you approve Q 2 bonuses, read this. Attached was my full report. Friday morning dawned clear and bright. I sat on my porch with coffee, watching the neighborhood wake up. No alarm clock, no commute, just waiting. At precisely 8 a.m., my scheduled email delivered its payload to the board members. By 8:17, my phone began to ring. Numbers I didn't recognize, likely board members' assistants scrambling to reach me. I let them all go to voicemail. At 9 a.m., the Emergency Finance Committee meeting would begin. Robert Chen would be there with my documentation in hand, watching reactions as my email was discovered and discussed. At 9:32, Stephen texted, "Police are here. Wilcox and Daniel being questioned in conference rooms, Phillips looking sick. What did you do?" I didn't respond. The wheels were turning exactly as I'd anticipated. By 10 a.m., Meridian's general counsel called. Unlike the others, I answered this one. "Mr. Wilson, this is Patricia Graves from Legal. We need you to come in immediately to discuss information you've provided to the board." "I'm available by phone," I replied. "This really requires an in-person discussion." "No, it doesn't," I interrupted calmly. "Everything I know is in that report. Everything I have is already backed up in multiple secure locations. If anything happens to me or my family, additional copies go to the SEC, IRS, and 3 news outlets." Silence. "Mr. Wilson," she finally said, her voice carefully measured, "the board is taking this extremely seriously. They've already placed several executives on administrative leave pending investigation. They would appreciate your cooperation." "I've cooperated fully by providing complete documentation. My part is done." After she hung up, I drove to a diner 20 miles outside Columbus. No sense being easily found today. Over lunch, news began breaking on local business sites. Meridian Technologies executives under investigation for financial irregularities. No names yet, but that would come. At 2 p.m., Robert Chen called. "It's a bloodbath," he said without preamble. "Brian confessed once we confronted him with your evidence, trying to cut a deal, blaming Daniel for pressuring him. Daniel's denying everything." "And Phillips?" "Claims he was just a consultant who had no knowledge of financial matters. Board isn't buying it. We've suspended all 3 pending further investigation." "The money?" "Forensic accountants are coming in Monday. Early estimates suggest at least $4.5 million diverted over 3 years, maybe more." I nodded to myself. I'd been close. "The board wants to talk to you," Robert continued. "About coming back, not just to your old position. They're creating a new chief security officer role, reporting directly to the board." I'd anticipated this possibility, but still found myself surprised. "I'll think about it," I said. That evening, I told Andrea everything. She listened without interrupting, then asked, "What do you want to do?" Good question. The revenge part was complete. The people who'd pushed me out were themselves being pushed out, likely facing criminal charges. Justice had been served cold and precise. But returning to Meridian meant walking back into the place that had discarded me after 17 years of service. Could I do that? Did I want to? "I need time to decide," I said finally. Later that night, I opened my laptop one last time and posted a single message to my otherwise dormant LinkedIn profile. Never burn bridges, just let them collapse under the weight of their own greed. Within minutes, former colleagues began reaching out. Word was spreading. The quiet systems guy had brought down 3 executives without raising his voice. By Monday, everyone would know exactly who they'd underestimated. Monday morning, I walked into Meridian's headquarters wearing a suit I hadn't needed in years. The security guard did a double take, then quickly printed me a visitor badge. "Welcome back, Mr. Wilson," he said with newfound respect. The elevator ride to the executive floor was quiet. I'd never had reason to visit this level before. Now I was expected in the boardroom. 10 board members sat around a polished table. Robert Chen nodded slightly as I entered. The interim CEO, previously the COO, looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Wilson," she began, "thank you for coming. The situation you've brought to light is unprecedented." I remained silent. The full extent of the fraud appears worse than initially reported, she continued. The forensic team has identified nearly $5.2 million in diverted funds. Criminal charges are being prepared. Still, I waited. Robert cleared his throat. Jake, the board has unanimously voted to create a new executive position, Chief Information Security Officer. Full executive privileges, reporting structure directly to the board. We'd like to offer you the role. I set my folder on the table. Inside you'll find my conditions, I said. Non-negotiable. The CEO opened it, scanning quickly. Her eyebrows rose. Full audit authority across all departments, independent budget, veto power on financial technology decisions. I nodded once. This is unusual, she said. So was embezzling $5.2 million, I replied. That happened because no one was watching. Now someone will be. The room fell silent. You have until noon, I said, standing. I have other offers. As I turned to leave, Robert asked, Did you plan this all along, Jake? I paused at the door. I didn't plan to be fired after 17 years. Everything after that was just me doing what I've always done, identifying system vulnerabilities and implementing appropriate security measures. At 11:47, they called. They'd accepted every condition. 6 months later, I sat in my new corner office reviewing security protocols for the upcoming quarter. The view overlooked the Columbus skyline, a daily reminder of how much had changed. Brian Wilcox had pled guilty to multiple fraud charges. In exchange for cooperation, he'd receive a reduced sentence, still significant. Daniel was fighting the charges, insisting he was unaware of the scheme despite the evidence. Jason Phillips had fled to Brazil but was being extradited. The money had been recovered, most of it anyway, enough that the company avoided serious financial damage. My former team now reported to me, though I'd promoted Steven to run day-to-day operations. The kid had potential, just needed someone to see it. A knock at my door drew my attention. Andrea stood there, smiling. Ready for lunch? She asked. I nodded, grabbing my jacket. As we walked through the IT department, conversations quieted briefly. Not from fear, but respect. These people knew what had happened, knew I could have destroyed the company instead of saving it. In the elevator, Andrea squeezed my hand. Happy? I considered the question. The anger that had driven me those first few days after being fired had faded. What remained wasn't exactly happiness, more like satisfaction, completion. I'm good, I said. Outside, the October sun warmed our faces as we walked to a nearby restaurant. My phone buzzed with a message from Robert Chen. Board approved your security budget increase. Unanimous vote. I smiled slightly. No arguments, no questions, just trust. Andrea noticed my expression. What is it? Nothing, I said, sliding the phone back into my pocket. Just thinking about bridges. Some collapse under their own weight. Others, once repaired, become stronger than they ever were before. I'd built this one right this time.
Elena Mercer stepped onto the gleaming deck of the $200 million zero-cent superyacht Azure Empress, docked in Miami's exclusive Star Island Marina, where champagne flowed freely from Cristal bottles worth $4.00 each, and guests flaunted Patek Philippe watches and Van Cleef and Arpels jewelry that cost more than most American family homes. The moment her simple linen dress, purchased from a local boutique for under $100.00, touched the polished teak deck, socialite Victoria Harrington Ross loudly demanded, "Security, remove this imposter, who clearly didn't belong among America's elite." Victoria circled Elena like a shark, her designer heels clicking rhythmically against the deck. That dress couldn't have cost more than $85.00, and those shoes are, oh my God, are they from a department store? Victoria sneered, adjusting her own $75,000 0-cents Dior gown and $12 0-cents Louboutin heels. Elena attempted to explain her legitimate invitation, while Victoria repeatedly cut her off, making sure everyone nearby could hear the confrontation. The crisp Atlantic breeze carried notes of Clive Christian perfume and freshly popped champagne, while the setting Miami sun bathed the deck in golden light that glinted off diamond-encrusted watches and platinum jewelry, creating a stark contrast to Elena's simple pearl earrings and unadorned wrists. Guests began to notice the commotion, champagne glasses pausing midway to lips as the spectacle unfolded. Victoria's voice grew louder, designed to draw even more attention. What's your net worth? What's your family name? Which hedge fund does your husband manage? The questions flew at Elena like daggers, each one meant to expose her as an imposter. 3 investment bankers in Tom Ford suits joined the circle, surrounding Elena with their imposing presence. My cufflinks alone cost $30,000 0 cents, one banker laughed, adjusting his French cuffs with exaggerated movement. That's probably more than everything you own combined. Elena maintained her composure but refused to reveal her identity, causing whispers to spread across the deck. Gatecrasher and social climber. On nearby phones, comment bubbles appeared on social media. Who let her in? Gatecrasher, alert wrong party honey. Victoria's performance reached new heights as she loudly theorized that Elena must be someone's charity project. Her voice dripped with mock sympathy. Perhaps she won a radio contest? Or cleans the cabins below deck? Fashion designer Julian Pierce, whose label adorned half the women present, joined the growing spectacle, suggesting Elena's dress screams discount rack. We're at an event where tables cost $100,000 0 cents each, darling, Victoria continued, gesturing broadly at the assembled wealth. People in this room have collective wealth exceeding $500 billion. 0 cents. You don't belong. The statement hung in the air, a verbal guillotine meant to end Elena's presence. Perhaps wealth shows itself in different ways. The quiet dignity in her voice only fueled Victoria's determination to humiliate her further. With theatrical flair, Victoria pulled out her phone to document the intruder for her millions of followers. Comments immediately began bubbling up. Class crash, fake it till you make it, budget crasher. The scene took an even darker turn as the yacht's staff joined in the public shaming. Wait staff carrying Dom Perignon and caviar-topped appetizers deliberately bypassed Elena, creating a visible service desert around her. When she politely requested water, head steward Marcus exchanged knowing glances with Victoria before responding. "Service is for guests only," he said, loudly enough for everyone to hear. Another server whispered audibly, "We only serve people who can afford to tip in Rolex watches, not quarters." Elena stood isolated as servers moved around her like she was invisible, their trays never pausing in her vicinity. Marcus sniggered to another server, making no effort to lower his voice. She probably thought this was the public ferry to Fisher Island. On social media feeds, new comments appeared. Server revenge. Know your place. Staff knows. The humiliation escalated when head of security Dominic approached with 2 guards flanking him, their earpieces and black suits creating an intimidating presence. "Madam, we need to verify your credentials," he stated coldly. "Unauthorized access to this vessel is a criminal offense." Elena produced her invitation, cream-colored cardstock with gold embossing, but Dominic barely glanced at it before suggesting it must be forged or stolen. His dismissive tone matched his words. "This event is insured for $75 million 0 cents. We can't have security risks aboard." The hesitation before security risks made his implication clear. Elena herself was the perceived threat. The security guards positioned themselves strategically to block her movement, hands resting on earpieces as they awaited further instructions. Victoria watched the scene unfold with satisfaction, sipping her $2,000 per glass champagne while new comments floated across her screen. "Security takeout," busted Gatecrash. "Expensive mistake." As if orchestrated perfectly, event coordinator Margot LeBlanc arrived next, tablet in hand and disapproval etched on her face. She loudly checked the guest list, deliberately scrolling past Elena's name, despite it being clearly visible on the screen. "I personally vetted every guest," Margot declared with practiced authority. "You're not on my list." When Elena calmly pointed to her name on the tablet's display, Margot shifted tactics seamlessly. "That must be a different Elena Mercer," she claimed, her tone dismissive. Margot's voice dripped with condescension as she added, "Perhaps you meant the charity dinner for regular people at the Marina restaurant. That one's only $5,000 0 cents per plate, much more your speed." Elena quietly insisted she was in the right place as Margot signaled to security with a subtle nod. The gathered staff exchanged amused glances at Elena's impending removal, a new comment appearing. "Staff always knows. Busted by the pros." not on the list. What had begun as one socialite's mean-spirited game had transformed into a public spectacle as Victoria began live-streaming the encounter. "Look what washed up on the Azure Empress," she narrated to her camera, walking circles around Elena to capture every angle. The stream quickly gained viewers as other guests shared it to their millions of followers across various platforms. "She thinks she belongs at a $200,000 0 cents per plate charity gala, where everyone owns at least one private island," Victoria exclaimed, her voice theatrical with mock disbelief. Celebrity guests joined in, filming Elena from different angles while adding various filters and effects to further mockery. Camera flashes popped like lightning around Elena, the electronic hum of phones broadcasting her humiliation creating a technological cocoon of shame. The salty air mingled with expensive cologne as the acrid taste of public humiliation filled Elena's mouth. Comments flooded Victoria's stream. "Yacht crash, wanna be busted, wrong side of the rope." The spectacle grew as fashion influencer Alexis Morgan, with her 15 million followers, joined Victoria's live stream for what she called an expert analysis of the intruder. "That bag is at least 3 seasons old," Alexis declared, zooming her camera in on Elena's purse. "And those shoes are... Wait, are those actually rubber soles?" Each statement was designed to elicit maximum humiliation as they dissected different aspects of Elena's appearance for their growing awe. "The watch is missing. Probably couldn't afford even a basic $20,000 0 cents entry-level timepiece," Alexis continued, focusing her camera on Elena's bare wrist. Despite the overwhelming onslaught, Elena remained composed but visibly uncomfortable as cameras surrounded her from every angle. Real-time comments appeared across screens. "Fashion victim. Bargain bin Barbie. Not belonging bingo." The live-stream viewer count ticked upward at an alarming rate. 10,000, 50, 0, 100, 0 people watching Elena's humiliation in real time. Victoria, sensing the viral potential of the moment, decided to escalate for maximum entertainment value. She proposed what she called a generous solution for the entertainment of her stream. "You can stay if you serve drinks to the real guests," Victoria announced, her voice honeyed with false generosity. "We're always short on staff." She held out a server's apron while her friends filmed, awaiting Elena's complete submission to the final degradation. "Or you could clean the bathrooms. We pay $200, 0 cents an hour, probably more than you make in a day," Victoria added, triggering laughter from the surrounding crowd. Phones recorded from every angle as hashtags began trending nationally. "Yachtgate crasher, consequences, know your place." It was at this moment that Elena straightened her shoulders and replied simply, "I think there's been a misunderstanding about who I am." There was something in her tone, a quiet certainty, that momentarily gave Victoria pause, though she quickly masked it with another laugh. The yacht's crystal-clear chimes sounded through the sound system, signaling the official start of the evening's program. The master of ceremonies approached the central podium as spotlights activated around the main deck. "Ladies and gentlemen, please gather for the commencement of our program," he announced through the state-of-the-art sound system. Victoria reluctantly lowered her phone but continued streaming as guests migrated toward the stage, temporarily distracted from Elena's humiliation. To Victoria's visible confusion, Elena quietly moved toward the stage rather than taking the opportunity to escape the torment. "Distinguished guests," the MC began, "welcome to the annual Ocean Conservation Gala aboard the Azure Empress." His voice carried across the now attentive crowd. "Tonight, we're honored to have with us the founder of Mercer Maritime Group, owner of not just this $200 million cent vessel, but the largest private fleet of luxury superyachts in the world, valued at over $5 billion, $700 million 0 cents. Victoria's champagne glass froze midway to her lips as the live stream continued to broadcast her increasingly horrified expression. Confused murmurs spread through the crowd as the MC gestured toward the very woman who had endured hours of mockery and derision. The spotlight swung across the crowd, finally landing on Elena, bathing her in brilliant white light that made her simple pearl earrings glow with an inner fire that outshined the diamonds in the room. "Please welcome our host, and the visionary behind Mercer Maritime Group, Ms. Elena Mercer," the MC announced. Gasps rippled through the crowd as Elena confidently walked to the stage, her bearing transformed from victim to commanding presence in an instant. Victoria's livestream, still broadcasting to hundreds of thousands, captured her own shocked expression as comments shifted dramatically. "Who is she though? Plot twist. Oh, no she didn't." Elena took the microphone with quiet authority, her demeanor projecting the natural confidence of someone who truly belonged. As she began to speak about ocean conservation efforts, her father, shipping magnate Robert Mercer, appeared at the back of the crowd, observing the scene with quiet intensity. "True luxury isn't what we wear or display," Elena said, her voice clear and strong. "It's the ability to protect what's precious." She never directly addressed the prior humiliation, maintaining perfect composure as she spoke passionately about marine protection initiatives. Victoria frantically attempted to end her livestream, but discovered with horror that it was being screen-recorded by thousands of viewers who refused to miss the dramatic reversal unfolding. Elena announced her company's $150 million zero-cents commitment to ocean conservation programs, drawing enthusiastic applause from the crowd, many of whom were carefully avoiding eye contact with Victoria. Comments continued to flood Victoria's still significant stream. "Power move. Riches in disguise, karma queen." As Elena concluded her opening remarks, Robert Mercer approached Victoria, flanked by his executive team. His tailored suit required no designer labels to communicate his position. "Miss Harrington Ross," he said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of immense power. "Your family currently leases 3 yachts from our fleet at $1,500,000, 0 cents per month each. As of this moment, those contracts are terminated." Victoria stammered apologies as her phone continued to broadcast her downfall to an ever-growing audience. "Our contracts contain a moral character clause," Robert continued, his tone matter-of-fact. "Your behavior this evening has triggered immediate termination." The air around Victoria grew frigid despite the warm Miami evening, as former friends created physical distance, her designer perfume now seeming cloying and excessive as the subtle scent of power shifted across the deck like an invisible tide. Victoria's phone rang, her father's name flashing on the screen, as Harrington Ross stock began to plummet in after-hours trading. Elena continued her planned speech while Victoria's social empire collapsed in real time. Margot, the event coordinator, frantically attempted to approach Robert with profuse apologies, but he simply raised a hand to silence her. "Your company's $5 million 0 cents annual contract with Mercer Maritime is terminated, effective immediately," he informed her, his voice devoid of emotion. "Professional integrity is non-negotiable in our business relationships." Head of security Dominic was quietly dismissed, escorted off the yacht by Robert's personal security team. The waitstaff who had mistreated Elena were discreetly handed transfer papers, reassignment to positions on Mercer's Arctic research vessels, effective immediately. Comments streamed across social media. "Dominoes down, Mercer justice, real boss move." Victoria's livestream captured her increasing isolation as the yacht's elite guests scrambled to distance themselves from her sudden and catastrophic downfall. The woman who had been the center of attention now stood alone at the railing, abandoned by her entourage as former friends clamored to introduce themselves to Elena. Victoria made a desperate attempt to approach Elena with apologies but was blocked by security, some of the same guards who had earlier threatened to remove Elena from the vessel. Her social media accounts flooded with negative comments from former friends who had witnessed her cruelty firsthand. Within minutes, notifications began appearing on her phone, fashion brands issuing statements terminating Victoria's $30 million 0 cents in endorsement deals. Elena graciously accepted congratulations for her conservation work, never once mentioning the earlier incident. Her dignity in victory proved as remarkable as her composure during humiliation. In the background, Victoria's phone continued to deliver devastating news. Her invitation to next week's Miami Grand Prix VIP suite had been publicly rescinded on social media, the first of many such exclusions to come. The deck's atmosphere had transformed completely, the air now electric with whispered conversations and sidelong glances. The setting sun cast long shadows across the polished surfaces as the clink of glasses became subdued and nervous rather than celebratory. News alerts began appearing on guests' phones. Billionaire heiress tests character of elite guests, most failed, and Undercover Boss Yacht Edition expose Miami's social elite. Business publications rushed to release profiles revealing Elena's personal net worth of $4,200 million 0 cents and her numerous maritime technology patents. Financial news tickers reported Harrington Ross Holdings stock had dropped 14% within an hour of the incident going viral, wiping $375 million, 0 cents, from their market value overnight. The same social media platforms that had broadcast Elena's humiliation now celebrated her understated approach to wealth. After her speech concluded, Elena noticed a young server watching her from the periphery. The young woman approached timidly, hands trembling slightly as she apologized for not intervening during the earlier spectacle. Rather than dismissing her, Elena asked about her background. Listening intently as the server explained she was working to pay for engineering school at MIT. Without fanfare or public announcement, Elena offered her a $250,000 0-cent scholarship through the Mercer Foundation and an internship in their marine engineering division. "I started my own career working on yachts," Elena explained quietly. "I believe in recognizing potential wherever it appears." The young woman's eyes filled with tears as Elena slipped her a business card with a personal phone number written on the back. Victoria witnessed this interaction from the periphery, her designer makeup streaked with tears as she realized the true nature of the woman she had so cruelly mocked. Robert Mercer nodded with approval, revealing this was how Elena evaluated all potential employees, by their character rather than their credentials. As the evening came to a close, Elena and her father boarded their private helicopter to depart the yacht. She paused before entering, casting one final glance at the vessel and its chastened guests. The helicopter blades whirred softly above, as the Atlantic Ocean stretched vast and timeless below them, the yacht's lights growing smaller as they ascended, a physical manifestation of rising above pettiness and materialism. Elena Mercer had climbed from deckhand to fleet owner, experiencing both worlds firsthand. She chose to judge people not by the price tags they flaunted, but by the humanity they displayed when they thought no one important was watching. Her quiet strength had revealed the shallow nature of those who believed wealth defined worth. If you discovered someone treating others poorly when they believed they held all the power, would you reveal your hand immediately, or would you patiently wait, like Elena, to see their true character fully exposed? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story of karma and quiet dignity, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We'd bring you these real hype lessons of power, character, and justice every week, because sometimes the most valuable things in life can't be measured in dollars and cents.